Good. Alright, so we're beginning Perek Aleph. The Alter Rebbe begins, Tanya, but you're all familiar with the fact that the word Tanya means we learned in a brisa. Tanya is an expression referring to the Gemara is bringing a Mishnaic or Tanoic statement. Usually it's a non-Mishnaic statement, Tanya. And the word Tnan, for example, is sometimes mentioned in the Gemara. Tnan, without the Yud Aleph, that means we learned in a Mishnah. So Tanya means we learned in a Brisa. Besof Perek Gimel Danida. That's in the right at the close of the third Perek of the Masikta in the Gemara called Nida, which is the last Masikta of Shas. Says no, it's the very last Masikta of Shas, except for some of the smaller Masiktas. But so in at the end of the third Perek of Nida, it's brought down that Mashbiyan Oisoi, we are giving him a Shavua, we're giving him a swearing oath. Mashbiyan Oisoi, Tehei Tzadik, he must be a Tzadik, Vial Tehei Rosha, and he mustn't be a evil person. A Rosha is the opposite of a Tzadik. A Rosha is somebody who deliberately does against the word of Hashem. V'afilu, and even kol ha'olam kuloi, even if the whole world will be saying to you, oimrim lecha, kol ha'olam kulo oimrim lecha, they are saying to you, tzaddik ato, that you have reached the level of a tzaddik, then you should not believe them. Hayei be'einecha, you should be in your own eyes Korosha, like a evil person. Now, that's quite a lengthy statement in the Gemara, which is talking about the process of a child's being in the womb prior to his being born into the world. And there's a lengthy statement over there telling us that when the child is in the womb, what his position is, and how his head is between his knees and his feet like at the back and so on, and he's sort of folded up very strangely inside the womb. And then it's written that a light shines on his head, Ner Doluk al Roshoi, and the Gemara brings Pesukim for all these different things. There's a light shining on his head, and he's able to look from one end of the world to the other, like Adam Harishon did. He's able to see the whole world from one end to the other. And it's written that that's the best hours of his life, when he's in the womb, that Ein Lechashois or Zmanim Teiv Yoysa Mizeh. That's the best time for a person, because he's able to see the whole world. And in addition to that, they teach him the whole Torah when he's inside the womb, and this Ner is being Delek al Roshoi. They teach him the whole Torah, but when he comes to go out of the womb and he comes to enter the world, then Ba Molech, there comes a angel, Sotrei al Piv, and he gives him a hit on the mouth, and he forgets the whole Torah. Mishachachehu kol haTorah. That hit on the part of the mala that caused him to forget the whole Torah. And then, as he's about to come out, Terem Tzeisoi, before he leaves the womb of the mother, then it's written this lashon. They give him a shavua. So who gives him the shavua is not 100% clear. But we just have to assume that the heavenly court, Hashem and the heavenly court and the angels, who are Hashem's representatives and his messengers, they give him a shavua, a very strong oath. Now a shavua is a very strong oath because you can only take a shavua by mentioning Hashem's name, and a shavua has very, very serious implications. So that would apply that we mamish give him a shavua, who mashbim v'loshem rabim, that many are these people, meaning the Beis Din and the angels. Tahei tzaddik, you must be a tzaddik. So when we think about it, to be a tzaddik is quite an effort, as explained here in Tanya. If we take the purest of the word tzaddik as it appears throughout the Tanya, then that's a pretty tremendous task. In other words, we're giving him a oath of the highest sort that he should be a tzaddik. If that's the case, then why do we say v'al tahei rosha, and don't be the opposite of a tzaddik? So l'chorah, we could say about that it's very, very difficult to be a tzaddik, and maybe he's not going to make it fully in the fullest sense. And therefore we say, well, at least if you can't make it to be a tzaddik, al tahei rosha, then l'chorah don't be a rosha, meaning that is the most extreme, undesirable state. V'afilu kol ha'olam kuloi oimlim l'cha, and even if the whole world will be saying to you, tzaddik atah, then you should not believe them, and you should be in your eyes as a rosha. That immediately arouses the attention of the intelligent reader. Why would a person look at himself as the opposite of what Hashem intended him to be? A rosha is a very strong term, as we said before. So why would we urge a person that he should look at himself to be a rosha? Anyway, that is the shavua which is given him, and it's written there in the Gemara that that's given to him just as he comes out of the womb into the world. He has to take that oath, and it's written that if he keeps the oath, then it's like we say in Tehillim, we say a verse, Mi yale b'har Hashem, who has the power to go up into the holy mountain of Hashem, Neki chapayim, somebody who has clean hands, uvar levov, he has a clean heart, a perfect righteous heart, he has the power to go up. And so therefore we give him an oath that he should be clean, he should be a tzaddik, in order that he should be able to go up onto the mountain of Hashem. So Rashi comes along over there, and Rashi says that you might have thought that maybe this is just some sort of it's not really a real shavua. We're just saying, listen man, we want you to say the best possible before you enter the world. So we call it a shavua. But Rashi says that since we bring a pasuk which says how to go up onto the mountain of Hashem, you can't go onto the mountain of Hashem unless you are bar levov and a ki kapayim, then it would indicate that it's a real shavua. So if it's a real shavua, then it's a very serious matter that this person is undertaking every yid prior to his entry to the world. He takes this very serious oath, and it would appear that we expect it of him, and we're going to be derish from him later. Look man, you took this oath, what's happening with you? Where are you? And where's your effort to be a tzaddik? So therefore, that's the beginning. That's the quote, which, as I said, is a very long piece of Gemara, and the Alter Rebbe comes in into Gemara at a very special point, mashbiyin, I say, that I give him this oath. So, if we look carefully in the Gemara over there, and before we ask the questions, which begin very soon, hopefully we'll deal with the questions today, but before we begin, if we look carefully in the Gemara over there, the word Tanya does not appear. In the text of the Gemara, in front of most people who learn the Gemara, the word Tanya does not appear. No, on the contrary, this is a drosha. It's written Dorosh Rabbi Shimlai or Shamlai. There's two different ways of pronouncing this Rav's name. Either with a sin smallish Simlai from the word Simla in Aramaic or in Lashon Kodesh, it means a garment. A Simlai, he was a person that made garments maybe. Or Shamlai is another way of translating with a Shin Yamini, Shamlai. Al Chapanim, the word Tanya does not occur, but the word Dorash Rebbe Shamlai. And then it goes the whole reason that brings this Shavua. So now, Dorash Rebbe is usually used in the Gemara when a Amoira intends saying a biur in the form of a Gadata. Now, an Amoira is the post-Tanaic period of the great Talmudic sages, and they were usually, or most of them were in Bavel, and there was about 6 generations or 5 generations of the Amoraim in Bavel. There were Amoraim also in Eretz Yisrael. There were Amoraim. The Rabbi Yochanan was the last of the great Amoraim, or I said last, he was in the latter generation of the Amorai Eretz Yisrael. And the word Tanya does not fit, because the word Tanya is, as we said at the beginning, a Tanoic statement. That means Tanoim. And they were generations earlier, and they had much more power, and they were much more authoritative than what the Amoraim are. And so the question arises in our minds, why did the Alter Rebbe use the word Tanya here? So some people try to suggest that this person who's making the drosha is called, as we said, Rabbi Shamlai or Simlai. Now, the word Rebbe in the Gemara can mean a Tana. It can mean somebody who's a Tana, but it can also mean Amoraim, and it can mean an Amora that he was either born or he lived in Eretz Yisrael. And the Gemara says, Kol Rebbe mi Eretz Yisrael, but Kol Rav mi Bovel. That means, when I get to the Amoraim, that Amora from Eretz Yisrael can be called Rebbe. Therefore, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shimon Bar Lachish, Reish Lachish was called Rabbi Shimon Bar Lachish, even though they were only Amoraim. When I say only, they were Amoraim. So the word Rebbe doesn't necessarily mean a Tana. It can also mean an Amora. So the suggestion that this Rabbi Shimon was a Tana is a little bit difficult, because we don't find a great deal about him in the history of the Amoraim or the Tanoim. He's mentioned, well, we don't know if it's the same one. It's even a bit confusing as to whether it's the same Rabbi Shamlai. But there is a Rabbi Shamlai mentioned in Sanhedrin and a couple other places in Chagiga. There's a whole discussion between him and Rabbi Yochanan, where Rabbi Yochanan didn't want to teach him something. He got rather upset with Rabbi Yochanan because he didn't want to teach him. Well, that would tend to indicate that he was amongst the Eretz Amoraim. The word Tanya doesn't fit, because this is a statement of the Amoraim. Therefore, the Rebbe brings down in a Sicha that there is a girsa, which I looked in my Gemara, I don't see anybody on the sides. Usually they notice that there's another girsa, but the Rebbe said there is in some place reports of another text in the Gemara where it was written Tanya. So the question arises that I feel there is another place and some suggestion that maybe it should be written Tanya and not. Why would the Alter Rebbe bring a word which is not in the Gemara of the majority of learners, and the majority of learners are not very informed about all these different texts and all these different, they probably wouldn't even get to know that there's another girsa. Why would the Alter Rebbe use a word which is not familiar to all of the learners of the Gemara? And Befrat, that it would seem that it doesn't fit the whole way the Gemara brings the drosha, and doesn't seem to fit the person who said it, because it would appear, even though I can't say 1,000%, but it would appear that he wasn't a Tana. So the word Tanya doesn't fit. So why did the Alter Rebbe start off such a huge, significant work as with a word that doesn't really exist in that part of the Gemara, according to a huge majority of text? And some little out-of-the-way text that somebody wants to suggest that maybe it did occur, but it's, according to the person who said it, it's a little bit unlikely that that's the real Gyosa. So why would the Alter Rebbe start off the Tanya with such a word? And we have to remember that the Alter Rebbe sat for weeks and weeks on every comma and every word in Tanya as to whether it was fitting and whether it was proper to use that word. And here we, right, boom, at the very first beginning of the whole Sefer, we run into a tremendous question. Why did the Alter Rebbe, choose such a word? So therefore, we're going to sort of offer a couple of answers to that question, and they're very important to remember because they set the tone for the whole purpose and the whole inner of and they put us right about the learning of the Tanya. And therefore, if you look at the word, I'm going to answer the more simple one first. And if you look at the word Tanya, and you switch the oisius around, you switch the words around, the letters around, then you get the word Eitan. You get the word Eitan. Aleph Yud Tov Nun. Sophie. Eitan. Now the word Eitan means, or Eson in Hebrew, in the old classical Hebrew, it means strong, unyieldingly strong. It can mean very ancient. It can mean confident, those types of things. But it can also mean very, very way back and primordial, Eitan. So the Alter Rebbe wants with this Sefer, if we examine the whole of the Sefer Tanya, we see that the Alter Rebbe talks on a very revealed level of the soul. And therefore, right at the beginning, the Alter Rebbe hinted to you that even though the most of the Tanya talks about revealed aspects of the soul, and not the hidden aspects of the soul, the whole purpose of Tanya was to wake up the higher aspects of the soul, which are beyond the revealed aspects of the soul. In other words, to bring out in a person who learns the Tanya, to bring out in him the Eson, Aleph, to bring out the primordial power that Hashem put into Yidden, and to bring out the stubbornness and the toikev, and the Mesiras Nefesh, what that indicates, and thereby to arouse the powers of what we call the Makifim, Shebenefesh, that a Yid should always stand firm, and he should know that being as he is a Yid, then he has to use old powers which go all the way back to Avraham Avinu and maybe even before, and he has to bring them into an obstinate stance to never give way. And therefore, we see that the Yidden, that they learnt the Tanya, the people that they learnt the Tanya in Russia, were dafka the people who stood firm, even to the Rahman and Islam, to the point of giving their lives. And the power that brought Yiddishkeit from communist Russia into our lives and our world, had it not been for their Mesiras Nefesh, I doubt whether we would be sitting here today around a table learning the Sefer HaTanya. It just shows you how far the Alter Rebbe succeeded in his aim. And therefore, it's a custom that when you take a little child into Cheder in Lubavitch, you may have heard of the custom, it's a custom to wrap him in a talis, so that he doesn't know, you see what's going on with him, to wrap him in a big talis, to bring him into the Cheder, and to show him his Aleph, his first Aleph, to show him in the word Tanya inside a Tanya. And the Malamed shows him the Aleph, and he even puts a bit of honey on it, and he puts the sefer, and the child licks the honey from it. And this is a very well-established custom. It was done by all the Rebbeim as well. And then to throw lollies at the child. And the Frierdiker Rebbe said that means that the angels above, that you make the child feel that the angels above are throwing him the lollies to make it not only a challenge to his whole being, which is Eitan, which is Tanya, but to show him that the first Aleph, and the word Emunah begins with the Aleph. And so therefore, it's brought down that if you learn the first Aleph in Tanya, in the word Eitan, then you will be a chassid for the rest of your life, and you will not give way to all the temptations of the world, but you will be firm in your emunah and your faith in Hashem, even to the highest madrigas of faith and emunah. So that's one of the reasons that's suggested by great Hasidim, that the Alter Rebbe put in Tanya, even though technically it doesn't really fit, and it doesn't even exist in the Gemara, and maybe even doesn't even technically fit with the person who actually said it, because he was an Amoyer and not a Tana. But nonetheless, the Alter Rebbe felt it was necessary to start off for the reasons we just gave. And you have to remember that the Alter Rebbe faced tremendously critical eyes. There were thousands of eyes were looking and being boidik as to what was going on with the Chassidim and with the Alter Rebbe, because 2 years after the Alter Rebbe gave the Tanya to the Defus, then he was arrested in Tov Kuf Nun Tes, which this was in Tov Kuf Nun Zayin, that they printed the Tanya. The famous approbations that we read were done in that year. Tov Kuf Nun Tes was when the Alter Rebbe was arrested after Sukkot and taken to Petersburg. So we see then that the whole purpose of the Sefer Tanya was to arouse Davke, the hidden powers, and give you the power to be a believer, and to stand firm in your beliefs all of your life. The second teretz, when I say second, there are numerous teretzim, but the second teretz we're going to mention is a very interesting one. Also has to do with the purpose of the Sefer HaTanya. And that is that according to certain great Sforim which the Rebbe Melech Mashiach brings down in a famous Sikha on the matter, and it's also based on a story of the Rebbe the Tzemach Tzedek, that somebody once asked him, the Rebbe the Tzemach Tzedek, this question, this kasha, why did the Alter Rebbe start with the word Tanya? And the Rebbe brings there in the name of the Tzemach Tzedek that there's a certain clipper in the Lium Hazeh, a clipper, mamish, a power which works neged Kedusha, neged Ratzon Hashem, that is called Tanya. It's got the name Tanya, yeah. And when you use the word Tanya in Kedusha, like the Gemara does all over the place, Tanya, we learned this and this, Tanya, we learned this and this, then that is matish, it breaks and hits that particular clipper to the point that it cuts it away. Yeah. But what is this clipper called? Tanya. So this clipper has a very special task that it set itself, and that is to take learned people and people who are striving to make their way in Avodas Hashem and persuade them that you must not learn Pnimis HaTorah, that you have no time and you have no koyach, and you have no ability to understand Pnimis HaTorah, therefore you mustn't learn it. And that is a terrible, says the Tzemach Tzedek, said to this person who asked him, is a terrible clipper, because it's Mavua in the famous Hakdama from the Rabbeinu Chaim Vital, in the Shah Hakdamas of the Arizal, that he says that the whole coming of Moshiach is dependent in the spreading of the teachings of the Pnimis HaTorah, and that the time has come now which it must be spread in the world. And from the time of the Rashbi, it was beginning to open out into the world. The Rashbi had also terrible Mesiras Nefesh to teach the secrets and the inner pneumias of the Torah. So what is this clipper called, Tanya? What does it do? It comes along to a person and says, no, you must learn only the Nigla B'Torah. You must listen, because otherwise you're not going to have time and quiet to know what you're supposed to know. It tells him all sorts of things and prevents him from learning Pnimis HaTorah. And therefore the Alter Rebbe began the Sefer with the word Tanya to use it, B'Tachlis HaKedusha, and through that to chop away its whole, to cut it away and chop it away from all of its influence in the world. And the Rebbe that Tzemach Tzedek added in the story that's told, that he said to this person that it's written that when they were about to go into Eretz Yisrael, that the Bnei Gad and the Bnei Reuven, at the end of Sefer Bamidbar, the Bnei Gad and the Bnei Reuven, V'chotzi Shevet HaMenashi, they decided that they wanted to stay on the other side of the river and make over there in Eretz Sichain V'oig, they wanted to make their place, and that would be their place of taking. And Moshe Rabbeinu was very tremendously angry about that, and he spoke to them very, very strong divrei teichocha, words of tremendous reprobation about this whole thing.
Yeah, it's good.
And he told them that you're turning away the people from carrying out, you're going to affect all the Yidden now. They're all going to want to stay here. And Moshe Rabbeinu was very, very tremendously harsh with them. And then it's written that they promised Moshe Rabbeinu that they would come over and fight with all the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael, and then they would go back to their... So it's a whole big question as to whether it was really a properly wanted thing or it wasn't, but anyway, that's what they eventually achieved. However, in his words of Teichacha to the Bnei Gad, Bnei Reuven, Moshe Rabbeinu used an expression over there, if you look it up, and he says, V'loma seniun eslei Bnei Yisrael milaver el ha'eretz asher nishpa Hashem laveisechem or laveisehem loseis lachem. So, it's written the word there, Loma Saniun. Now that's a word in Lashon Kodesh which means, why are you turning away their hearts? Why are you taking their hearts away from doing what they should really? They're saying that you guys are staying here. They're going to say, well, maybe what do we need to go and fight for? Maybe we can stay here as well. So the word for turning away the heart is Saniun. Now the word Saniun is the oisius at the beginning of the word of Tanya. It's Tov, Nun, Yud, Aleph, with another Vav and another couple other letters there. And Bamira, the Rebbe that Tzemach Tzedek said, that's the Remez in Torah Shebiksav, that there's such a word which can turn away the hearts of people from the Emes HaKavanah. And he said, nowadays, that exists in turning away people from learning the Pnimis HaTorah and Chassidus, and saying, oh, we don't have the time, and we want to get involved in Kabbalah and all these sort of things. And with that, that was one of the great things that were working against the Alter Rebbe, and one of the great forces in the creation that he had to overcome. And to this day, we also have problems by people, what the Rebbe said, that they aroused something that was virtually gradually passing away from the world. They aroused once again some of this problem, Legabi, the Inyan of Chassidus and learning Chassidus. And therefore the word Tanya was put in a way to be Mavatal, this clipper called Tanya. Adkan, up to here, is the story, how the Rebbe mentioned it in a famous Sikha, and how he based it on a story that the Rebbe that Tzemach Tzedek said to a Yid who he asked him. So in that case, we have to, the whole Sefer is called Sefer HaTanya, and it gained that name, even though the Alter Rebbe called it two other names. He called it Sefer Shalbeinanim, Likuti Amorim. But nonetheless, the word Tanya is the word that has become well known by Yidden throughout, and the Alter Rebbe himself in Likutei Torah and in Torah sometimes quotes the Sefer Tanya as Sefer HaTanya, even though he quotes the Sefer Shel Beinunim, he writes it there a couple of times, but he also writes Sefer HaTanya, is assuming that even in the time of the Alter Rebbe, this name was already being used, and that's the key use of this word Tanya, and that's the secret, as much as our minds can grasp at this particular point, of why the Alter Rebbe changed the Lashon of the Gemara in such a significant way, and in a way which is in danger of bringing him criticism, and yet nonetheless he saw it necessary that this should turn the whole Sefer into Sefer HaTanya. So, with those brief introductions to the whole idea, we'll now see what is the brisa according to the language that the Alter Rebbe brings, or the statement on the part of the Gemara, B'Shem Rabbi Shamlai or Simlai or Shamlai, that we give an oath to every child when he's already forgotten the whole Torah, and he's coming out of the rechem of his mother into the world, and we give him an oath, and we say to him, you've got to be a tzaddik. So, what would be the point? It's a little bit like it would seem a little bit unfair, you know. The child is very, very small. He doesn't know anything from anything. Only, you know, we have to work out in our minds we have to work out in our minds to whom is this word being given? Because here we have a small child that the child doesn't know anything yet. So who are we giving this shavua to? So some people want to suggest that it's to the neshama. And the neshama is maybe even mentioned in that piece of the Gemara, because one of the great Meforshei Gemara says that Ner Daluk al Roisha, there was a light on his head. What sort of a light in his mother's womb is there on his head? And it's also brought down in that same statement of Reb Shamlai that the mother must be careful not to eat certain things, because if the child were to let anything out of his system, which is not usual, in the form of a waste material, which he doesn't let anything out. That's one of the amazing nisim. He doesn't let out normal waste material. As if he were to, then he would endanger the life of his mother. So it says this great Meforish. He said, "What's this light doing on his head in there? If we're frightened about a little bit of material coming into the mother's system, then what are you doing with the light in there?" So he says that it's not a physical light, no, it's the light of his neshama. And neshama lights him up, and his neshama teaches him or allows him to learn all the Torah, or his neshama learns the whole Torah kula, and then at the moment of its entry into the world, it loses the whole Torah kula, but the light there is the light of the neshama. So likely, in a similar way, they want to say that who do we give the oath to, this tremendous oath, you take on this oath, who do we give it to the neshama? So according to them, we give it to the neshama. So I come along, many people, and they say, well, the neshama, you need to give an oath to keep the Torah and to be a tzaddik. The neshama, the nefesh elokis, only knows of Elokus and only wants Elokus. There couldn't possibly be any other thought on the part of the Neshama, the Nefesh Elokis. Couldn't be any other thought than that she would want to keep everything, and that's what she wants. That's her whole longing, is to serve Hashem. And so you have to give the Neshama a shavua that she's going to keep. She's going to be a tzaddik. I mean, doesn't seem to fit rightly. The Nefesh Abami is. You give the Nefesh Abami is a shavua that he should be a tzaddik. I mean, the Nefesh Abami is, first of all, he's not there at this point. He only comes later on. The Yetzer Hara only comes at a later point. Well, not a very much later point, but he comes pretty much soon after. But just the same, the Yetzer Hara only wants Gashmias for Chumrias, and the Yetzer Hara only wants what's good for himself. And he thinks selfishly about himself the whole time, the Yetzer Hara. So you're going to give the Yetzer Hara a shavua to become a tzaddik. I mean, who are we giving this shavua to? And furthermore, you might say we give it to the one in the middle, the Nefesh HaSichlis. Yeah, we give him a shavua. Some people want to suggest that maybe we give him a shavua, but you know, what's he going to do with the idea of becoming a tzaddik? You know, the Nefesh HaSichlis, he works out according to what's called Seichel Anushi. What's the best thing to do? You know, ordinary human reasoning. So, I mean, it's hard to imagine that we're demanding of him that he be a tzaddik, you know. If you're already going in a certain way, the Nefesh HaSichlis will assist you and he will help you. And you can use his reasoning to back yourself up. So who are we giving, who's the whole shavua, yeah, who's it for, and who's it being given to? So therefore, comes along certain great people in our Rabbeim, certain of the Rabbeim say that in Emerson the shavua is to the Nefesh Elokis. I say we give the oath, and this tremendous, serious oath, to the Nefesh Elokis. I mean, the Nefesh Elokis wouldn't dream of doing something else. But the Nefesh Elokis, where has she been up to this moment? Where's the Nefesh Elokis been? In Gan Eden. Yeah, the Nefesh Elokis have been in Gan Eden. And it's absolutely ideal. She's been serving Hashem, believes interruption, without any pesek whatsoever. Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem, the Nefesh Elokis in Gan Eden. All of a sudden, what are you going to do? What are you doing? Not you're going to do, you are doing it. You're bringing down the Nefesh Elokis into a guf. What that is, a Yerida Gedola V'Atzuma. It's a Yerida She'ein Kamoiha. The Gemara says in Masechta Tainus, that's like from the top of the highest tower to the bottom of the pit. That's what's called Igra Rama Labira Amikta, from the top of a high tower down into the depths of a deep pit. That's the Yeridasa and the Neshama into the guf. And all of a sudden the Neshama is going to meet up with the Nefesh Abami years, and the Nefesh Abami is going to say, look here, I'm the boss here for the first 13 years, you don't really have what to do here, I'm the boss. So, I mean, the Neshama is going to come in after 13 years and find this, you know, how do you call it, dug-in situation where everything just seems to be on the part of the world, everything is for the world and for the Gashmiyas and for the Chumriyas, of thinking of yourself and just getting what you need out of the world, making a good time. And all the other musagim that the Nefesh Abamis has, all the concepts. So the Nefesh Elokis is going to have a tremendous, unbelievable task. And therefore we give her an oath. Now let's think for a moment, what is our oath? What is our oath? When do two people, when do they make an oath one to the other? Like we find that David and Yonasan, you know the famous story when David didn't come to the meal and Shaul was very angry and Yonasan told him to hide. The Haftarah of Erev Rosh Chodesh, every Shabbos which Erev Rosh Chodesh, read that Haftarah. So it's written that David and Yonasan took a oath at the end of allegiance one to the other. They took a oath that Hashem should guard them and be with them, and they would guard one the other, and they would support one the other ad olam. Just be always devoted one to the other. Why do you have to make a shavua? A shavua is a very delicate matter. Elamai, dafka when you foresee that there's going to be difficulties, and when you foresee that it's not going to be so easy, and when you really love somebody or you're devoted to him and you want to, that's when there shouldn't be a breakage because of all the hardships which are foreseen could occur and will probably occur. Hashem Yishmor. And then you make a shavua. In other words, dafka when it's going to be the most difficult and the most hardship situation, and you can never be sure that the whole thing is really going to hold together, oh, that's when you make an oath. And what does the oath do? It binds you l'mayla me'aseicho, Tanya, emuna, eiton, l'mayla me'ta'ava, v'da'as. And the whole meaning of a shavua doesn't have any sense. It's something where you commit yourself beyond your own reasoning. You don't know yourself, but if you can have koiches, but you commit yourself that you will draw out koiches that you may not even foresee that you will have there. And that's the whole idea of a shavua, and that's what we find. We say every day in the Walatzin, that we say about our forefathers, Hashem swore to our forefathers from the early days. So what do you need to swear to the forefathers? Just to help the forefathers. Now, there were such difficulties in their lives that even Hashem had to bind himself up in a form of a shavua, in a form of an oath, which Rashi says is a very serious matter. Rashi says in the Gemara over there, this is not a play thing. This is an emissary shavua where a person's going to be demanded. Why do we put him in such a delicate situation, almost, as we might say? Because we want to be mamshich into, we want to bring into him koiches l'mayla me'hateva, koiches beyond reasoning and beyond the normal power of a person, to be devoted and to be drawn into this matter despite the hardships that will be. And that's the whole idea of one of the concepts of the word shavua. Mashbiyin oisei. And dafki when he's small, dafki before the neshama has entered the guf, and dafki before he meets up with the Yetzer Hara, and dafki when he has no idea where he's going, what's going to happen. He's a little baby, a little pitchchel, as they say in Yiddish. Dafki at that moment, we are mamshich into him koiches, that he will be able to draw on that shavua, kol yemei chayov, and he'll be able to stand firm. And we demand of him to hey tzaddik, even though it's not going to be easy. And the real madrega of a tzaddik, is pointed out very shortly by the Alter Rebbe, is an almost impossible task. But therefore, some people want to say that maybe in this oath, they don't mean tzaddik with all the perfections that the Alter Rebbe himself sets in the Sefer HaTanya. There's certain things that's put down in the Zohar HaKodesh, that if you keep, that you're called a tzaddik, even though you may not be a tzaddik in the fullest, most ultimate sense, but you're given the name tzaddik. And one of them is anybody who has a bris, and he guards the bris, and he keeps himself in purity as much as he can. Well, a person like that is called a tzaddik. And other such matters linked with that and connected with those inyonim, or they're called the inyan. That's why we said it, Yosef HaTzadik. Yosef, because he purified that matter with Ish's Potiphar, he didn't give in. Rahman and Etzlan, he didn't give in. So therefore he's called tzaddik. As all Yidden who come from Yosef HaTzadik are all called for that reason. They're all called tzaddikim. But anyway, whatever it means a high madrega. It means getting into things, and really, and therefore we have to give the nefesh elokis. We have to give her powers apart from what she wants to do in any way. But we have to make her take it over, because she's going to face such difficulties that who knows whether she'll have the powers in the revealed powers of the soul to carry out the task. And therefore we say, no, you're committed beyond the real powers that I'm going to talk about in the Sefer. Says the Rebbe, you are committed in a way that you, Asher nishbaito l'aviseinu mimei kedem, from the days of primordialness. Yeah, mei kedem, you have a power to stand firm and to overcome and to be successful. And therefore, that's the whole idea. Then there's another just a brief, I'll finish now. There's another a brief description of the word Shavua, which is very interesting, and the Rebbe the Tanya Ch brings it down in the Kitzurim to the Sefer HaTanya. And the Rebbe the Tanya Ch says that we say the word Mashbin, Shavua is with a shin, but if you make it with a sin, put a sin instead of that shin, in other words, put the dot on the left side instead of the right side, Masbiyan. What is Masbi? What is Masbiya? Masbiya means to become fat, not fat, satisfied from having eaten a meal, or from having eaten something you call Masbiya l'chol chai raton, that we say in Ashrei. In other words, Masbiyan, I say, we give him a lot of power, we give him power beyond reasoning. Masbiyan, we fill him up. The Friedrich Rebbe says, Mazetik Timon. You fill up his spiritual tummy with powers. You give him all sorts of, how do you call it, his petrol tank. You fill up his petrol tank full, Masbiyan, always with a sin, with a sin, smally, and that's also an answer to the problem that we just raised. How's he going to have the power to be a tzaddik? How's he going to overcome all the difficulties of this world? So we say, no, you've got the power. You have a whole full tummy, and you have a whole full petrol tank. All you've got to do is draw on those koiches to hey tzaddik. Be a tzaddik. On Erev Chag HaShavuos, I want to finish on that note, that we've all taken our oath that we're going to be, and we are committed beyond reasoning. We're committed in the form of a Shavua, or in the form of Savia. Masbiya l'chol chai ratzon. We're committed to be tzaddikim. So you might say, well, I'm like Rabbi Hillel Paritcher. Rabbi Hillel Paritcher, he was once at a meeting, and he was held to be a very great person. Rabbi was a great person. And the person announcing he was going to speak, he said to me, Hoben, here with us tonight, he said, we have the tzaddik, Rabbi Hillel Paritcher. So Rabbi Hillel sort of, he said, tzaddik? He said, halavai beinani. He said, halavai that I would be a beinani. Would that I should be a beinani when I want to make me a tzaddik. So, mitzad echad, I can't blow you guys up too much, we're all got a shavua, we're all tzaddikim. I could wish you worse guy than that, but anyway, just the same. Don't, there's going to be room for being a beinani also. That'll also be a nice achievement. But the original shvua was the original shvua is tehei tzaddik. That you've got to be al tzad ha'yisatov. You've got to be in the best possible way. And then, we'll see as we go along, but we won't even mention that for the moment, because the Erev Shavuos, v'ameich, Yeshaya Novi says, v'ameich kulam tzaddikim. That Yeshaya Novi, he's the Novi HaGiula, we want Moshiach now. He said to the Eibusha, all your people are tzaddikim, all of them. So, for us, because they're all working to try and keep the oath that they were given at the moment of their birth. Yechia Melech HaMashiach. Good. Okay, so, should all go and get